There's a moment, quiet, uncomfortable, when you know exactly what you should be doing, but you don't do it. You scroll, you delay, you tell yourself later, and deep down, something feels off. You keep avoiding what matters, and you know it. It's not that you don't understand. It's not that you're incapable. It's that something inside you resists stepping into what actually moves your life forward. Have you ever caught yourself doing this? Knowing the right step, but choosing the easier one instead? Today, we're not just talking about discipline. We're talking about why you avoid what matters, how it quietly affects your self-worth, and how emotional healing begins the moment you face it. The discomfort isn't just in the task you're avoiding, it's in what it quietly does to your sense of self over time. Every time you delay something that matters, you send yourself a subtle message, I'm not ready, or worse, I can't handle this. And even if you don't say it out loud, your mind starts to believe it. It shows up later as hesitation, second-guessing, and that constant need to check if you're doing things right. Have you ever noticed how something small you avoided earlier starts to feel heavier the longer you leave it? That weight isn't the task, it's the meaning you've attached to avoiding it. The insight is that avoidance slowly erodes your confidence, not because you're incapable, but because you're not showing yourself what you're capable of. The shift begins when you stop ignoring these moments and start acknowledging them with honesty, without being harsh on yourself. Avoidance often disguises itself as reasoning that feels sensible. You tell yourself you'll do it when the timing feels better, when your mind is clearer, when you feel more prepared. But that right moment keeps moving, and you stay in the same place. Have you ever realized that the more you wait, the less ready you actually feel? That's because readiness doesn't come before action, it grows through it. When you delay, your mind starts linking discomfort with something to escape, and that makes it even harder the next time. The insight is that you're not lacking readiness, you're reinforcing hesitation. The guidance is to take a small step before your mind has time to negotiate its way out. Even a slight movement forward begins to rewire that pattern, helping you build discipline in a way that feels grounded and real. Sometimes what you're avoiding isn't the task itself, it's what stepping into it requires from you. Growth asks you to show up differently, to let go of familiar patterns, and to take responsibility for the direction of your life. That can feel unsettling, even when nothing external is stopping you. Have you ever noticed that quiet resistance, the kind that doesn't have a clear reason but still pulls you back? It's not because you can't do it, it's because doing it changes something about who you are. The insight is that you're not blocked by inability, you're pausing at the edge of transformation. And the moment you recognize that, the fear starts to lose its control. The guidance is to move forward anyway, not because it feels comfortable, but because it aligns with the version of yourself you're becoming. There's also an emotional layer shaping how you respond in these moments. Past experiences, failure, criticism, being misunderstood, can quietly influence your present choices. So when something meaningful comes up, your mind tries to keep you safe by pulling you away from it. It tells you to wait, to think more, to avoid the risk. But safety and growth don't always move in the same direction. Have you ever wondered why something simple can feel so heavy, even when you know what to do? That weight often comes from unresolved emotions, not the task itself. Emotional healing begins when you understand that your past reactions don't have to control your present decisions. Each small action you take despite that hesitation rebuilds trust with yourself, reminding you that you are capable of moving forward differently. Avoidance doesn't just delay progress, it creates a constant, quiet tension inside you. You may go about your day, but there's always something in the background that feels unfinished. That one decision you've been putting off, that one action you keep postponing, it stays with you. Have you ever felt mentally drained even when you haven't done much? That's not laziness, it's the weight of things left unresolved. The insight is that your energy isn't being consumed by effort, it's being drained by avoidance. The longer you carry that tension, the heavier it becomes, and the harder it feels to face. The shift begins when you stop running from it and realize that doing the thing is often easier than carrying it. Relief doesn't come from escaping responsibility, it comes from stepping into it, even in small ways. When you begin to face what matters, something changes within you. Not instantly, but steadily. That lingering tension starts to ease, and your mind becomes clearer. Have you ever noticed how even a small completed task brings a sense of calm? That's because action restores alignment between what you know and what you do. The insight is that clarity is not something you wait for, it's something you create through movement. Each step forward strengthens your discipline habits and rebuilds your trust in yourself. You begin to rely less on motivation and more on consistency. Over time, that consistency becomes a quiet source of inner peace, because you're no longer avoiding what you know needs your attention. You don't need to fix everything at once, and you don't need to feel completely ready before you begin. But there is something you already know you've been avoiding. It's been on your mind, showing up at quiet moments, asking for your attention. Have you noticed how quickly your mind tries to push it aside or replace it with something easier? That's where the pattern continues. The insight is that avoidance isn't always loud, it's subtle, almost automatic. And that's why it's easy to justify. The guidance is to interrupt that pattern with a simple decision: act before your mind starts negotiating again. Not in a dramatic way, but in a grounded, steady way. One small action is enough to break the cycle, because it proves to you that you can move even when you feel resistance. At a deeper level, this is about your relationship with yourself. When you keep avoiding what matters, a quiet disconnect begins to form. You start trusting your intentions less, and that affects how you show up in other areas of your life. But the moment you take action, even in a small way, something shifts internally. Have you ever felt that subtle sense of relief after finally doing something you've been putting off? That's not just productivity, it's reconnection. The insight is that self-respect is built through action, not intention. Each time you follow through, you strengthen that connection with yourself. Over time, that consistency becomes a foundation for inner peace, because you're no longer divided between what you know and what you do. So if this resonates, pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you still avoiding what matters? Because you keep avoiding what matters, and you know it. But now, you're aware of it. And awareness is where change begins. You don't need to rush. You don't need to be perfect. Just take one step toward what you've been avoiding. That's how growth starts. That's how peace returns. Share your thoughts below. How are you healing today?